This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Hi, Beau. Hi, Chris. Thank you guys so much
Hello.
for joining me.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
All right. Beau, could you tell me just a little bit about yourself?
Yes. My name is Beau Karnsrithong. I am 22 years old. I live here in Santa Barbara, California. My pronouns are he, him, his. I currently work in higher education, but also am studying to become an actor. And so I've worked with Chris before on his wonderful project. Um, yeah, love it.
All right. Chris, can you also just same question, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Chris. I recently graduated from SF State. I'm currently in San Francisco working on some film shoots and just finished my own thesis film.
All right. Congratulations to both of
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to start the interview questions. Some of them will be directed more towards Beau or more towards Chris, but feel free, you guys, to just chime in whenever. But the first question is going to be for both of you. So how do you both feel about the representation of Asian Americans in film and media?
Yeah, I think I could answer that one. Yeah, I definitely feel like we've taken some like big steps forward in terms of representation for Asian Americans. Specifically in the past like 10 years. Yeah, because like usually Asian Americans are stereotyped or typecasted as like a certain role. But however, like we're starting to take more leading roles, more films about Asian Americans themselves. So yeah.
Yeah. I think just to build on that point, I think growing up, you would see, I mean, Chris would probably jump in on this too. Like, who did we have? We had like Jackie Chan, we had
Mhm.
Stephen Yun in The Walking Dead. Like we've had very little Asian American representation in film and media. But more recently, I mean, like literally the best film, and this is not up for debate, Everything Everywhere All at Once came out this year,
Mhm.
which was led by an Asian American. Um, and so we are seeing like right now, I feel like in this past year or two, a growth in Asian American representation. I mean, like, um, yeah, like I just feel like there's a lot more Asians popping up in these spaces, which has been really fun to watch because as a little kid, we didn't get that. And now it's like, oh shit, okay, here we go. We have these Asian Americans being superheroes, we have these Asian Americans being normal people. Things aren't just the Asian American stereotype like Chris talked about.
Okay. My next question is going to be towards Chris. So is misrepresentation of Asian Americans in the media ever okay? For instance, as a director, would you ever cast a Filipino actor to portray a Japanese character in one of your films? Why or why not?
Yeah, personally, I would never, but I also think it does depend on some of the circumstances. Like for the example you gave me, it really depends on like what the story is and what like the character is and like how essential is the culture for that character and for that story. So yeah, if it's a Japanese story, I would never cast a Filipino or even any other Asian ethnicity for a Japanese role because every every Asian ethnicity is different from each other in various ways, whether it comes from the food, the style, the clothing, or just like the whole culture itself is they're
Mhm.
very different from each other. So to say that like, oh, one size fits all for the role because oh this yeah it's okay this person is Asian so it counts like no like we're all very different from one another and we have our own cultures and our own identities.
Mhm.
However, I do say like if the culture isn't that big of an impact on the story, like if it's just like, oh, they want the character to be Asian, but like or like the story was written for a Japanese character. However, like they did like let's say a Filipino actor more, and they rewrote the story to fit that person's identity and to fit that person's culture and ethnicity. Then I would say that is okay.
Mhm. And then kind of similar, Beau, the same question. As an actor, how do you feel? You're a Filipino actor. How would you feel if you were either casted to play a Japanese role or if someone else was casted to play a Filipino role who wasn't Filipino?
Um, I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna echo what Chris said. I think as an actor, like our primary role is to be in service to the story, right? To be in service to this amazing story that someone written, someone's directed, and there's all these moving parts. And so you don't want to get in the way of the story being able to be effective. And like what Chris said, if there was a story that needed to center around a certain ethnicity because that was important to the character, or that was important for the audience to understand that this is what the story's about, I would feel very uncomfortable stepping into that space and taking that up. Similarly, like if there was a story about specifically like a Filipino American, right? And that's so closely tied to what the vision is of that story. If someone else were to take that space, I'd be a little upset, just because like that's not it doesn't do service to the story. It doesn't do good to the story. And at the end of the day, like if you're trying to be like, okay, this is what this experience is about, and it is tied to race and it is tied to ethnicity, like you want to be able to do that fully. And I think it'd be a failure of an actor to take up that space knowing that it's not, you would get in the way of it, and you don't want to get in the way of it.
Mhm. Okay, this question is going to be for both of you. Do you feel that by being Asian American in any way, has it limited the amount of opportunities it's provided for you as a director and an actor in comparison to other filmmakers?
Beau, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah. Like limitation. I think when it comes to being an Asian American actor, and specifically the limitations to roles and parts that like I'm good for, I think in casting directors' eyes, or even in just directors' eyes in general, like I tend to fit in a certain category. Like I think with that not every, like that not white people have to deal with, if I'm honest. Like you take me, right? You take me an Asian American. Typically, you find me playing the roles in which I am more passive. You find me playing the roles in which I am more quiet, maybe even more nerdy, the more less masculine roles, as opposed to someone else who isn't necessarily Asian American, who can maybe be seen as someone who could fit multiple roles. And so I think that in regards to the options in which like I'm like quote unquote fit for, there are limits in what people see me as. I will say though, I feel like it is getting a lot better. And going back to that first question, like we're finally like, you know, Asian Americans are multifaceted like anyone else is. And so I think that realization that, oh, like this actor, this actress isn't just someone that can play a nerd, or isn't someone that can play someone who's submissive. This person can lead a film. This person can, you know, be the star of the movie. But I would say that was probably one of the limitations.
Yeah, going off of what Beau said, we are, as Asian Americans, we are very put into boxes, and they do limit us. And by they, I see like producers or people in the higher ups who choose like, oh, us for like these positions, because like we are seen as Asian Americans before we were seen as like, oh, just a director and just an actor, compared to like how like white people, like they're already seen as actors and directors, not like white actors and white directors. Yeah, but as Bose was saying like before, like just like how we are now getting into those positions, like usually we are seen as just the sidekicks, the passive characters, and what the friends, right? However, but like with like Shang-Chi, we're now superheroes. Like me and Beau never got to see that when we were kids, when we were little. But yeah.
All right. Next question. Both of you, what do you feel are the effects on not having enough representation of Asian Americans in film and media for the Asian American youth?
You said what are the effects? Is that what you said? Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think it like for the youth especially, like it really limits us. Like we do get into our heads like, oh, we can only be these things. Like we're only like the math teacher, the math student, and like the sidekicks. Like we see ourselves like, I think me and Beau could contest to this too, that like growing up as kids, we saw ourselves as the sidekicks because that's what the media portrayed us as. But yeah, but like now it's what like, because we're making those big steps now that we're seeing more Asian Americans in film being the lead roles, like it's great. It blows our mind that we could see ourselves as like superheroes and like these action heroes. It's just, yeah, it's really like overwhelming a little bit. Yeah,
It's amazing. I think it's like it's amazing. Chris is right. Like growing up, like I could be short round, but I can't be Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? And to see more Asian representation, if I were to see that as a kid, it would have changed everything. I don't even know where I'd be right now. I think about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I saw on Disney Plus there's this like new like kids TV show. I forgot what the name of it, but there's this main character, he's a firefighter and he's Filipino. And I started crying because there's this little Filipino kid on a Disney Plus TV show who's the main character putting out fires. I mean, I don't know what the show's about, but that was such a like I had no idea the show was going on. So the idea that like a 5-year-old Beau could have watched that show and been like, oh, you know what I mean? That would have changed everything. So representation is so important. I think representation is the way we're able to, I mean, that's the role of an actor or of a movie. It's like we are able to place ourselves into these characters. And it was always so hard for us as kids to do so, you know? And so now that like we can like let's do it, like now we can be like, oh shit, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. Oh shoot, I could be Shang-Chi, I could have those sick moves, I could be in the MCU. Like that would have never, because I can't be Captain America. Or at least I'm not supposed to be Captain America. But why would I want to be Captain America when Shang-Chi's right there? You know what I mean? And so having these like different representations happening all across the board, oh, it's so sick. It is so sick. Very happy about it.
Going off of what Beau said again about just like, oh, imagine being a kid and seeing this now. Like, I loved Blue's Clues as a kid, but like the main guy was a white guy. But now the main Blue's Clues guy is a Filipino actor, which is insane because like he incorporates Filipino culture into the show. Which is like, if I as a kid saw a Filipino actor talk about like his nanay and like include like all these like Filipino like things, I was like, oh my gosh, like we are like normalized, I would say, like almost.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna rant a little bit because this is like literally Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man, right? There's a Lola in there, a Filipino grandmother. Like when I saw that in the theater, I was screaming. I mean, I was screaming because Andrew Garfield was also in there. Spoiler, but like I was also screaming the fact that there was a Lola in a movie about
spoke Tagalog, right?
Yeah,
right? No
like,
subtitles either, which is insane.
No subtitles. I mean, I don't even speak Tagalog, but like still, it's like that's my mom speaks that. You know what I mean? My Lola speaks that, and to see that like. It's so emotional. It's such an experience.
Okay, last thought on that before we can move on to the next question. But yeah, I took my whole family to see Spider-Man, and like having the Lola speak Tagalog and do all those things, like that was the biggest like cheer my family gave for the movie. And they had 3 Spider-Man in it, and like they cheered for the Lola.
Yeah.
Right. That was a great answer, but from both of you. My final question, and this one you can both answer as well, is what advice, could each of you give for other Asian Americans who aspire to join the film and media industry?
Going first?
Yeah, I could take that one first. Yeah, I would say not just for Asian Americans, but for any person that wants to join the film industry. It's like it may feel like a competition that we're all trying to knock each other down, so you could raise yourself up. But however, like we do like move forward fast and like go higher if we do like work together and we raise each other up, we promote each other's like work and whatnot. Like it's not like we can't like gatekeep each other just so that we could get in ourselves. Like we have to, if we all raise each other up, we're all gonna make it. Like a lot of people now are using inclusion writers, so it's a thing that people could demand in their contracts, either actors, directors, producers, like crew members. They can negotiate that they need to have a certain level of diversity on the either within the cast or the crew to just like before like they could say yes to it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, my only advice is like do it. You know, like this, you are needed. You are entitled to this space just as much as anyone else is. And Chris is right. I think I only speak for myself, but I'm sure Chris shares similar experience. Like it's been such a privilege working alongside so many people who are in your corner. And that's not what you always hear about the film industry. It's like people are always trying to gatekeep, people are always trying to exclude people, people are trying to weed people out, take advantage of them. But I think with this generation of filmmakers, and at least the ones I've worked with, and I hope I get the same vibe wherever I go, but like it's been amazing. Everyone's in your corner, everyone's rooting for you, and it's a group effort. Because everyone's trying to tell this story. And so for Asian Americans, yeah, join the film industry, do it. I think it's what we need. It's where we're going. So get on the train. It's time.
Yeah, I'll just one thing you said that caught my like ear was that like we sometimes like we're afraid to take up like space as like Asian Americans. Like we're always like, oh, just in the back, like, oh, we'll quietly do this. But no, I think we gotta be louder and take up the space because we, like you said, we do deserve this like space. Like we deserve to be here. Like we're in the room with you guys.
Yeah. You have a story to tell it.
All right, guys, that is all my questions. Those are beautiful answers. Thank you so much for being a part of my interview. I really appreciate it. I hope I get an A after this. I think I will, but thank you again. You guys were great. I'll see you guys maybe on the screen.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Savannah.